Hi everybody, it's Hero from the Birds back with another Shadowlands video. And in this video I'd like to show you a Lady Darkvein pull that our guild did in normal and talk just a little bit about what it's like to do this as a Holy Paladin who's focused on casting. I said a few videos ago that I'd like to start out this raid tier looking at the Infusion of Light legendary. That's the one that's going to buff the healing from our Holy Lights and reduce the mana cost from our Flash of Lights. The main benefit of that legendary is that we get 2 procs of infusion. So you can see here I've adjusted my UI a little bit for raiding purposes, specifically to do with healing with infusion, so that I can track my procs of infusion just to the right of my character, and I can track my Holy Shock and make sure that it's being used well. Lady Darkvein is an interesting fight on normal, and I'm sure on heroic as well, in that it's quite complicated. There's a lot of overlapping mechanics, and if you're not attending to the large pools of blood, I suppose, or anima, that you need to drain in the 4 corners of this fight, a lot of extra things can be happening. So instead of just a normal bout of lasers that need to go over top of the orbs, you'll have spinning lasers. Your adds will get rooted and explode for a lot of damage depending on how much you've drained it. And on top of that, there's just a lot of extra stuff going on. So we're here in this raid with, I think, 22 people, and we're 4 healing it. And you can see as we go through, there's a lot of action all the way through. You could 5 heal this with this many people, but I think we have a fairly good healing core, and they did really well in this fight, so we wanted to push the damage. I'm not sure if this is going to get nerfed going forward, but ultimately a really exciting fight, a great one to show you what it's like to heal this not as a Glimmer Paladin, but as a Holy Light casting Paladin. The main feature of this that I tried to keep up throughout the fight was making sure to spend as often as I possibly could both versions of my infusion buffed Holy Lights. If I felt like I needed to build Holy Power, I would cast them on the tanks. You can see me casting on the Paladin and the DK here. If I felt like I had enough Holy Power, or if someone was really low, I would focus attention with those Holy Lights on other people. So this style is probably as close as you can get with Holy Paladin to the older style of almost kind of post-classic BC and then into Wrath, where you had a lot of casts of Holy Light going out. But I like this one. It's really dynamic. You can fill with Crusader Strike if you'd like to, but guys, my opinion of this build is that you often spend a lot of time casting Holy Light right after your Holy Shocks, so you don't get as much of an opportunity to cast Crusader Strike. That's completely fine. You still do a great deal of throughput. One of the benefits of this is you can use Beacon of Faith to really bolster the healing that comes out of this build. And some people are like, wow, Beacon of Faith, what is that? You lost Glimmer. Obviously, Virtue isn't that great in a raid setting, but what's the benefit here? And you'll see, I'll show you after we're done this pull, it's a pretty compelling translation of healing. You get basically a 35% transfer on both targets for Beacon of Faith, because if you read the talent, it takes your 50% beacon and it cuts it by 30%, which equates to about 35%. You can see the laser beams going around there. I die in this pull, of course, because I'm an idiot. We get back up, keep her going. This fight has just a lot of extra action, extra things to do, and what Beacon of Faith offers you is a way to really keep your tanks going all the time. There's a lot of hard mechanics in the early days of normal and heroic when we don't have very much gear, and your tanks are going to get slapped. So Beacon of Faith did just a ton of work in this raid. So yeah, we're cycling between casting our Holy Shock and then filling as soon as possible with those Holy Lights while we're trying to pay attention to mechanics. If we get a mechanic and we have to go away from the boss, it's okay because we're not relying on building via our Crusader Strike. My suspicion is, and I'm at something like 23 or 24% haste, we're likely not going to see, if you're going to use this build, very many casts of Crusader Strike to fill. People on the Pally forums and those kinds of things, or on Twitch streams, are often talking about the caster build as if you have time to Crusader Strike, but my experience has been that as soon as you get an infusion proc, it takes up a lot of your time. It's sort of 4 seconds worth of casting that you're going to produce. And if you don't do it that way, you really waste a lot of infusion procs. So if you're looking at this build, be advised you're probably not going to Crusader Strike as much as you think. You see here I have 2 procs. And I overlapped one there, pressing my Holy Shock. It's not uncommon. We're also making use of Resplendent Light, and I'll show you the breakdown after this fight is finished. Resplendent Light did fairly well. You can see here we're putting out something like 5.5k HPS. We're 4 healing with 22 people, so we're probably short on healers. We could maybe add another one. But I'm with a pretty experienced crew here who do a lot of throughput healing. A Mistweaver Monk, a Druid that's pumping, also a Shaman, another good choice for this tier. And I'm here to show you guys that essentially Holy Paladin, you can see the bars moving back and forth, there's lots to do. Holy Paladin can hold its own. I'm sure the Glimmer version does well also, but the caster version is no slouch. And really, it comes down to making sure that you are slamming out those Holy Shocks, slamming out the infusion procs that you get. Let me just show you in the logs the breakdown for the Holy Paladin spells. You can see here, guys, Beacon of Light split into the 2 is doing a truckload of HPS. This is insane when you consider how much Glimmer is supposed to be doing in the Holy Shock setup. And you can also see here, guys, Holy Light is holding its own, just really, really pumping. We're taking Shielding Words, which is doing an excellent amount. I forget exactly what percentage this is, something like 5%. Resplendent Light also doing quite a lot. Saved by the Light was less useful here. One thing we could have done is either indexed into Prism, although that eats GCDs, and as I think I've said elsewhere, my concern is largely that you won't have enough time to cast your Holy Lights if you get Prism. But you can also take Judgment of Light, which is, I think, a really strong raid talent, so consider taking that as well. Here's what I was playing with, and I think this is a really strong starting point for the Holy Light build in raids. Partly because your tanks are going to get trucked, and you can see here, guys, Beacon of Faith doing a lot of work. The overhealing's pretty low, 30% overhealing. If you had just your own Beacon of Light and you were playing Glimmer, this overhealing will be much higher, and the beacon healing itself will be much lower. Obviously, Glimmer is going to contribute a good deal of healing, but a lot of overhealing can happen alongside Glimmer as well. I found once we get to about 21-22% haste, your character, I think these are the stats that are pretty close to what I have going forward. 25% haste. I think I was at 23. Let me just remove this so you can see. When you get into this range of haste, the Holy Light build feels really smooth. So the movement between Holy Shock into 2 Holy Lights is very reasonable, and you can cover with Word of Glory. That's another thing I should mention. Obviously, I was not casting Light of Dawn, and you could ask the question, why not? Obviously, Light of Dawn is an insane HPS button, and if you can hit all the melee and you're right there, and if I'm in a melee heavy raid, why am I not pressing it? But I was focusing my attention as more of a spot healer in this role, and that's been very beneficial. I'm the raid lead of the bird, so my attention is also spent directing people what they're going to be doing, what mechanics are coming up, monitoring healing cooldowns that are coming out of all of the other healers, and I need them to have fairly static rotations of throughput, and I'm just going to grab people who are in danger. So that's what it looks like, guys. Just a kind of first run at normal Darkvein. It's a fairly high-tuned fight, meaning you'll need a lot of throughput, and I had a blast. Honestly, some people don't like the Holy Light playstyle. It feels really good to me. You're rotating between Bestow Faith, Holy Shock, Holy Light. All of your casts feel really meaty. Your Word of Glories are punching, or you could do Light of Dawns if you'd like. Beacon Healing is off the charts. There's a lot to love out of this build. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have questions about setting up your own builds for raids, or you can shoot me your comp and I can talk you through what you might like to look at. But Beacon of Faith is a great place to start if you're doing the Holy Light build. We'll see you guys again next time.